I've been so excited to meet with my dear friends, Bronwyn Bishop and Joe Hildebrand, who are just furiously agreeing at the 2-year mark
already in the ad break
of the greatest Prime Minister of all time.
We can agree on that. What's the next subject?
Now, kudos to you. Much of the quoting in the editorial today about the Salvo stuff was from your story.
Yes.
About the launch of it.
Yeah.
In and
Terrible
around
stats.
with some Albo stuff that we'll get to in a moment or two's time. But Bronwyn, the 2-year mark, what do you think?
Well, F for failure, because he promised 3 very important things. One, you'd all feel better after he got elected as Prime Minister. He would take responsibility for everything, and it would be a transparent government. Fail, fail, fail.
Yeah, correct.
People feel worse, 12 interest rate hikes. We've got criminals that they've let out onto the streets because they wanted to. High Court only said 1 had to come out.
Correct.
Every time you look at something, and the cost of fuel is through the roof, and that, in fact, Joe, drives the cost of living through the sky, from the apple you buy to give your kid to take to school, to the pair of shoes that you buy at another shop. It affects everything you do. Cost of everything is fuel. And the insane policies of Mr. Bowen and Albo the Trot have done nothing but force those prices up. And worse again, there've been no leadership on anti-Semitism. None at all.
So I want to give equal time here, but I'm not going to keep a clock, right?
Yes,
So, Joe, obviously your thoughts would be the exact opposite, that they are what they said they would
I
be.
mean,
or the rest
there's
of it.
I mean, obviously it hasn't been the perfect government. There's no question about that. A lot of these things are beyond the government's control, and I think it was probably a mistake to promise that they could fix cost of living, and they obviously hung it around the previous government's neck when it suited them and said that everything would be fine with them. I'm always wary of those
trying to do that.
I'm always wary of those kind of promises. But again, this is an economic crisis that is gripping the entire world. It is because of the overhang from the pandemic measures that we put in place that, frankly, a lot of which should never have been put in place. And people like you and I...
Jim Chalmers got what he wanted, but he would have owned an airline.
People like you and I were saying, well, you know, no one wanted to go back to having just one airline in Australia, so he's looking...
So the taxpayers should buy the second one?
No, I just said this is just a possibility. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. But I think... Firstly, Albo, maybe he was a trot. He's not a trot anymore. Albo has no love.
Still a trot.
He has no love for the trots. The trots are making his life a misery. He's making his life a misery on Palestine. They're making life misery on the women's.
Nobody's making his life misery. He's making it himself.
No, he's
he doesn't change his spots.
No, they're attached to his office like barnacles. They're making nuisance of themselves on campus. They're screaming at him at rallies. Right. He has no love for the trots. I can promise you that. He is someone who is very much moving to the centre. And I think that it's a government
that's the centre in the left-wing gutter.
It's a government that is a bit wobbly. All first-term governments are. John Howard's first-term government is very wobbly. Lost 3 ministers. Went on to become one of the greatest prime ministers the country's ever had. So I don't think it's been a write-off by any means.
So okay, I'm going to ask.
We could lose a couple of ministers to be a good start, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it just?
Like the immigration.
There's
and
one I wouldn't mind going. Yeah, there's one I
Oh.
wouldn't mind going. Home Affairs can stay, but immigration I think maybe should be assistant
Both
minister
should
for the
go,
Republic.
Joe. Both should
Now,
go.
also interesting that Peter Costello, and I do find this, look, Peter Costello, obviously a fantastic treasurer, but long out of government, and his circumstances were the river of good times as opposed to the river of bad times, right, through the mining boom.
Hey, you don't forget, when the Howard government was first elected, there was a huge Asian collapse.
Yes, true.
And we came through that in a pretty steady manner.
But I'm just saying is that there is a little thing that happens after every budget, which is generally speaking a week and a bit later, Peter Costello tells us thumbs up or thumbs down. He says absolutely inflationary. Basically, every opinion poll says that those who think that their life is really going to be changed by it was 4/5 of bugger all. But now we learn that we're just going to basically, I think they made a whole bunch of decisions which were about giving them a slogan for an election, whenever it would be, about every household and every taxpayer. But if Costello is telling us that it's inflationary, the consequences of that are interest rates up, whereas the Prime Minister is holding on for dear life that interest rates go down, so they can turn around and say, look, you've gone from Ribena purple to slightly mauve. Vote for us.
But that's why I say there'll be an early election, because Snake Charmer, the Treasurer, has said, oh, well, this is anti-inflationary, this budget, and therefore there's going to be a rate cut. And I know better than the Reserve Bank, who says there may be a rate rise. So is he going to want to play Russian roulette and get tested? Not on your Nelly. Already, I can see it. I know what happens in the party room. I know what happens when a leader starts to fail, as Albo is failing. They get restless. They see their seats. They look at them. Am I going to get re-elected? Is this going to be, am I going to have to pay the price? And they start to get really restless. And Chalmers is over there. He thinks he's the God-given solution to reinventing capitalism and having a whole different thing. It's going to get very tricky for them. There are so many reasons why it's going to go early. It doesn't matter what you told Albo to say. It doesn't matter at all. The fact of the matter is...
So your theory is that Jim Chalmers is going to force Albo to go to an early election so he'll lose and Chalmers can take over the leadership? Is that the theory?
I wouldn't go so far as to make the final conclusion, but...
And Albo's such a spring chicken, he'd never see that coming. I mean, it's not like he's got a history in politics.
It's not a bad conclusion.
You think they're going to go to an election before the Queensland state election so that every voter in Queensland...
Queensland state election matters a row of beans.
You don't think?
No.
You don't think that they're just going to line up and belt the bejesus out of him after they struggled to do well as they should have in Queensland?
Right now in the opinion polls, the only place Dutton's preferred Prime Minister is
Queensland. It would be a suicide note. This is, I mean, everyone keeps saying this is the Albanese government. It's an absolute nadir, and that's why he's going to call an election. He's lower than he's ever been before, and that's why he's going to march to the polls. It's insane. They are going to go the distance.
The tax cuts in the budget aren't going to last till next May.
No, that's right. He's not relying on the tax cuts. He's relying on interest rates coming down. And when interest rates come down, or if interest rates come down, which everyone is predicting will happen in the first half.
Broken the back, will he? And everything will be lovely.
Then in the first half of next year, he can say, look, the worst is over. We got you through it. Things are looking better.
You're saying he's going to go to August, are you?
No, the first half of next year.
Oh, the first half.
August is in the second half of next year.
He's going past May, then.
Well, no, the first 5 months.
All right.
I don't think so, Joe.
Now,
the only thing you and I agree on is the Salvation Army.
Well, the Salvation Army is magnificent, and they love Albo. They love him. He's a strong supporter.
Don't put those words in their mouth. But anyway, he's the Prime Minister.
I'm extremely grateful.
I'll be up there collecting on the weekend, and I won't have the Salvation Army defamed in that manner.
You should just knock on Albo's door and he'll pop in a pineapple for you.
Well, maybe you could go to one of the rental properties that he owns and the bloke is about to boot. But, that's a nothing story.
Now, the bloke who saved $50,000, well, honestly, oh my God, my landlord charged me half the market rate on a 3-bedroom townhouse I'm living in on my own. Oh, the humanity.
No, it does make perfect sense that you brief against your tenant to the Australian media. But anyway, let's get so because he crossed the PM, I wish him well. And here it goes, boom, boom, boom. That's like that lady who's never been heard of again, after calling the Prime Minister out at the women's rally for the crying and all the rest. Never heard of again.
Yeah, because they realised that they totally
wish them well.
Because they were making stuff up and the camera showed they were
the video showed her crying too, right? Remember that tape is there as well.
Anyone can cry. It's like, oh my God, Peter Dutton's going to kill me.
We still don't know
That's the easy part.
what is the change in the Prime Minister's circumstance that he needs to sell a house.
That's a bit personal, isn't it, Bronwyn?
I think it's quite.
I think it's been in the papers.
No. Well, he's getting married. I don't know if you missed that.
Now, that's to pay for the wedding?
No, it's a change in circumstances.
It's rubbish.